Aloha and welcome to Akaku Live. I'm Dana. I'm sitting here with the Shaka Movement guys, the experts on the issue. And later we're going to go into some music, but I'm going to get right to it because we are very limited on time. So here's Jack Giss with our news for the day.
Aloha, I'm Jack Giss with your Island News headlines. The Maui Police Department is asking for the public's help to identify a man suspected of robbing a Kihei Bank of Hawaii branch Sunday. The man entered the Kihei Safeway store at 1:57 p.m., approached a bank teller, and handed the teller a note demanding money. Anyone with information regarding this robbery should call Crime Stoppers at 242-6966 or the Maui Police Department at 244-6400. State invasive species officials are looking at using Australian dogs trained to sniff out little fire ants to help curb the invasion of the hard-biting species on Oahu and other islands. Taya Pinnaman, manager of the Maui Invasive Species Committee, said plans are in the works to bring the trained dogs and their handlers to the islands to conduct an assessment for Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island, where little fire ants have been found. I'm Jack Gist with your Island News headlines.
Thanks, Jack, and I'm back. So immediately to my right, I have Mark, Dawn, and Lauren. They're here from the Shaka Movement, and they have a huge event going on tonight at the McCoy Theater at the MAC. So introduce yourself, Mark.
Well, Dr. Pang and myself are among 5 citizens who have introduced a petition that we hope will get on the ballot to require companies that using genetic modified organisms and heavy pesticide concentrations to prove that those things are safe. There's a public trust doctrine in Hawaii that we think is really important, and there's a precautionary principle which says that test things before you release them in the environment. Prove that they are safe, and we're asking them to do that.
Perfect.
I'm Don Huber, Emeritus Professor of Plant Pathology at Purdue University, also international consultant. But what we've noticed is that the health of our soils, health of our crops, the health of our animals, and the health of our people has continued to deteriorate since the introduction of genetically engineered crops, and the chemicals that they produce are engineered to tolerate.
My name is Lauren Pang. I speak as a private citizen. I'm a physician. I was a consultant for the World Health Organization, teaching practices to evaluate drugs, vaccines, and diagnostics for 20 years. Currently, I'm a professor of medicine at the University of Brasilia in Brazil. I review research for the U.S. Congress. My issues have been with GM crops themselves, but recently I've learned that a huge number of pesticides have been used, and my issue is with the uncertainty and the combinations. I really expect the biotech companies to do what they can get away with. We've seen it with the pharmaceutical companies, but the regulators, whether they be federal, international, state, and hopefully the county can enact something, to me are asleep at the wheel based on what I've taught for the World Health Organization since 1985.
All right, and with that, we do have a video. Do you guys want to show that now?
Sure.
All right, we're going to take off with this video.
Yes, we have all of our documents, and we have a copy of the bill. So I believe we are ready to go. Mr. Mark, lead the way.
We're here at the Maui County building to submit a petition on behalf of the people of Maui County to protect the resources of the island and protect the health and safety of the people from the dangers involved in massive use of pesticides and genetically modified organisms. We will begin a petition drive to put this directly on the ballot so that the voters next November will have a chance to vote in favor of protecting the island by invoking a temporary moratorium to cease the use of GMOs and the pesticides associated with them until the company producing those pesticides and releasing those GMOs in an open-air environment can prove that they are safe and not harmful to the people, the environment of this county.
Yeah? So it's not based on only economics. It's based on what are the effects and affects onto the environment, the air, the water, the land, the reef, the children, the kupunas, the people.
People say, oh, the life of the land is perpetuated through righteousness. That's bull. You know what that really means? It means life is perpetuated through a balanced relationship with the land.
What we poison in our land, we poison ourselves. It's that simple.
They use restricted use pesticides that by themselves might not be so dangerous, but when you start adding them all together, it becomes a cocktail, and they have not done testing of those cocktails.
Miscarriages, birth defects, an increase, neurotoxic diseases, ADD, ADHD, asthma, allergies. There's a whole raft of symptoms and diseases that people are experiencing that are known to be directly related to the chemicals that are being used.
You'll hear the statement all the time that there's a consensus that they're safe. That consensus is between those that have a vested interest in the dollars and the power and the control that come with genetically engineered crops, not from the independent scientists at all.
If you really step back, we really may look like we're just a big experiment, you know, a big research lab to experiment with affecting people, you know. And so, yeah, we're questionable. Are we being sacrificed?
We have intense scientific censorship. Cream of the crop that was picked by EPA called together to establish whether genetically engineered crops are safe or not. After 3 years, they gave up in frustration, wrote a letter, said, we're denied access to the materials, we're denied the opportunity to publish, and you have zero objective information to base any decision on because the research is prohibited by the companies. And that's probably one of the reasons why when the FDA and the EPA just raised the tolerance levels, they made a statement to the companies that we make no independent study of the claims. We rely totally on the good faith of the company that these levels are safe.
I ask all the different ohanas throughout Maui County, every one of you families have your leaders in your family that you all turn to as to what to do. This is an issue that I ask the leaders of all the families to rise, stand strong, stand firm, and make that decision to encourage your family to support this move.
Very powerful film submitted by these guys, I believe. So what made you join this movement? What brought you to do this?
People keep asking me, are we really lab rats in some kind of an experiment? And when I look at my friends and see the incidents of people who are passing over with greater and greater frequency, younger people, I begin to really see that there's something happening here that's where we're not connecting the dots. And when I see that in the past pesticides are in the soil, are in the ocean, get into our water supply, and are blowing around in fugitive dust, I have to believe there's some connection. And I'd like to ask the experts here, is that the case? And does it get from the fugitive dust and into people's lungs and into people's food supply?
They can, not only through the dust and through drift, but you also have the compounding factors of many of the mold toxins, many of the actual allergenic molds that are also increased in this process. There are over 1,300 peer-reviewed scientific papers that send up red flags or that actually document the health and safety risks of the GMO crops or the compounds that they're engineered to tolerate. We should really call them as chemical-containing crops rather than GMO crops. But the health risks, all of the peer-reviewed science raises serious health risks. We need more studies rather than the suppression of that scientific information.
Okay, my major concern now is because I found out how many chemicals are being used in the name of pesticide control. So we in the medical field have an understanding that when we use two different drugs, that combination is considered a new drug, safety-wise, qualitatively, quantitatively, to proven otherwise, combinations. So when you use two drugs, you got three combinations, drug A and B. There's A, there's B, and A and B. When you use 4 drugs, how many combinations do you have? 15. When you use 15 chemicals, say sugarcane or pineapple, how many combinations you got? 30,000. When you use 40 compounds, say apples or strawberries, how many combinations you got? 10 to the 13, 1,000 billion. When you use 80 compounds, which I heard the GM crops are using, how many combinations do you have? Each one is new in and of its own accord. 10 to the 23rd. That's more than drops in the ocean. It's more than drops of water in the world. It is real likely when you multiply these things on top of each other, you're going to see some horrendous effects. Not every combination is toxic. Not every combination overlaps. Not every combination is going to cause some chronic disease. But when you got 10 to the 23rd, I think you're asking for big trouble. What's your definition of combination? Health-wise and environment. That means you use the chemicals together, or you use them separately, but they persist in the environment together, or they're not in the environment together, they're not used together, but they persist in the body. And the final argument, think about a reef. They never were together, were they? But the damage that occurred overlaps. Use compound A, damage your reef for 20 years. Use compound B, never saw compound A, but the damage overlaps quantitatively and qualitatively. Strange things. I'm not saying these things cause it. I'm saying the potential is there, and until it's proven safe based on the precautionary principle, don't do it, because by the time you see it, a little too late.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. So, are all GMOs bad? Do we have to ban all of them?
No, some might. To me, it's like a drug background. Some are good, some are bad, but somebody's gotta sort this out. Okay. I don't see, and I'm seeing very severe criticism by FDA scientists of the FDA, that the principles that we should act on are not being followed.
I don't think those somebodies should be the public of Maui County. Either the people on Molokai or on Maui who are being exposed to these things. I don't think that's the way to find out. I think if these are unknown things with known virulence in the chemicals being sprayed and in the possibility of gene transfer among the genetically modified organisms, that should be conducted in a laboratory without having to have people exposed and then the public having to prove that they wthis was the cause, because companies will always say, well, it was the bug or it was something else. They should prove, first of all, that these things are safe. I wanted to ask Dr. Huber about persistence in the environment. How long do many of these chemicals persist in the soil?
We know for glyphosate that it can have a half-life as long as 20 years or more. The other thing is that our limited knowledge of what we're doing in genetic engineering doesn't give us any probability of predicting what the outcome will be. It's an extremely mutagenic, teratogenic process, so that there are millions of other physiologic changes that take place when you disrupt the integrity of that genetic code. Because genetic engineering, as we're practicing it today, is based on fossil science, based on the idea that there's one gene and one function. We threw that out with the human genome sequencing. We know now that genetics is based on the spatial relationship between the genetic components and then also the environment. So that when you disrupt that spatial relationship between genetic components, you disrupt the entire process. Extremely mutagenic again, so that there are many proteins, many other toxins that are potentially produced that we have no idea what they are because nobody has looked at it. There's no such thing as substantial equivalence with any of the normal breeding programs that we use with hybridization, because they don't require a virus promoter gene, they don't require antibiotic resistant genes and all of those other genetic components that are totally foreign, and they're also transferred in a normal breeding program with all of the control genetics, all of the regulatory genetics, so that the entire basis of our current genetic engineering is really flawed science.
So if this moratorium went in, could they ever be proved to be safe? I mean, isn't that what they're going to fight tooth and nail for?
They could on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
And in general, when you moratorium a product, you moratorium the product.
Okay.
But in this case, we're moratoriuming the process, because the process doesn't seem to believe in precaution. They released multiple pesticides, they released genetic modifications, and generally, I don't like the moratorium process, but in this case, you have no alternative. When they do it correctly, like drugs, they may prove some products to be good. And we will weigh the benefits against the risks. But to have blind faith that they're all good, especially when there's a conflict of interest, when the guys tell us it's good, but there's a financial conflict of interest, that doesn't wash. That's not how we do science. That's not how we do regulation.
So what are the main talking points that people, so the event starts at 7 p.m. tonight, correct? The McCoy Theater and the MAC. People who are coming to this, what can they expect?
What they can expect is Dr. Pang and myself and the 3 other people who are presenting this, you saw them on the clip, will be there explaining why we introduced this legislation. Then we're going to explain the petition process, because there are a great many people here who are concerned about this issue and want to know what they can do. So we will explain the petition process. We will have the petitions there. We will have copies of the bill, so people will be able to come, and people have been asking for months now, well, what can we do to really make a difference here? So this is what they can do to make a difference if they can get there tonight. And then Dr. Huber will be answering questions. I want to bring up the issue of the rise of diseases that we never really associated with the environment: Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, obesity. And Dr. Pang presented evidence a couple months ago when he lectured on the topic, and Dr. Huber presented it again Friday night when he was lecturing to a small group of people. And it's a dramatic correspondence, not proof, but correspondence between a couple of dozen major diseases that we're confronting with now that have increased radically in the last 20 years since the introduction of Roundup, the active ingredient of which is glyphosate. And I wanted to ask about that. Is this these correlations? Yeah, there was a publication in Scientific American about Roundup, and they showed that Roundup alone is quite safe. And there was another component called POEA. It's a surfactant which allows penetration of the Roundup. POEA alone is quite safe, but when used in combination in the lab against cells that represent teratogenicity birth defects, it was quite synergistic and potentiating. And Monsanto responded by blog and by comment to that publication. Before I tell you how they responded, I'll ask any local Monsanto rep here, when you tell me what Monsanto has to say, make sure you quote Dr. Goldstein. Don't give me your opinion, do your homework, get his opinion, because it's nonsense. But I don't want to hear your opinion from Maui. You are represented by Dr. Goldstein, who was here on Maui, representing the medical opinion of Monsanto. Quote it, defend it. Good luck.
So what do you say to the people who, they go, oh, well, you can create more food on the same amount of space, and you can put more vitamins in it, and what do you say to the people who have this viewpoint?
If I could respond to that.
Go ahead.
With our limited knowledge of the genetic engineering process, we don't know how to increase yield. There isn't a single crop out there that's been genetically engineered that has increased the intrinsic yield of a crop or the quality. Both of those are multi-genetic factors. We're having problems with 1 or 2 in that expression area. So that when we say, well, we have to have genetic engineering to meet the world's increasing population needs, it's false. Paul Wagner chaired a committee for the CAS, Council on Agricultural Science and Technology, that showed that in 1964 we could produce enough food with the current technology for 15 billion people. We're only anticipating 9 billion people by 2050. It's a matter of will, it's a matter of need. Certainly when you see a 12 to 15% reduction in yield with our current genetically engineered crops, that's not the way to feed a growing world population. And then when you see the reduced nutrient density, the increased disease pressures, and all of those other factors that are coming into play that we're just starting to recognize, because glyphosate, for instance, was sold on the basis that it's safe because humans and animals don't have the shikimate pathway. The problem is that all of our intestinal microorganisms that are responsible for nutrient absorption, for vitamin production, for those 3 critical aromatic amino acids, all do have that shikimate pathway. And Monsanto has even patented glyphosate as an extremely powerful antibiotic that even in their patent at 0.075 parts per million kills off all of those organisms that we have to have for our own nutrition and our own happiness.
So if I understand that correctly, you're saying that these organisms get into our gut where 70% of our immune system is happening and compromise our immune system. Is that why people are getting so sick?
That's a possibility. Until proven otherwise, I'm going to say that's possible.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and we're going to recoup. Wow, you guys that's really cool. I didn't know all this, so, I like learning.
Akaku Entertainment Report. Right off the bat, the big news is that Bob Dylan returns to Maui on April 26th. Dylan's new album, Tempest, is getting rave reviews, and the Rolling Stone magazine says Dylan is at the top of his game. Tickets go on sale for MAC members at 10 a.m. this Saturday and for the general public on March 1st. Moving into the week and leaving Sunday behind, on Monday, photographer Douglas Hoffman will present a free program on humpback whales from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Maui Art Expo store in the shops at Ma'alaia Harbor. And on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., the Aspen Santa Fe Ballet will be at the Max Castle Theater. If you like ballet, then don't miss this company that has gained worldwide acclaim for their skill and technique. That's it for the Akaku Entertainment Report. I'm Tom Blackburn Rodriguez, and we'll see you right here next week. Mahalo.
And we're back after that quick entertainment report. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. So real quick, why should people come tonight? What are your main talking points?
Well, the people should come tonight because they wanted to get the information from 2 international authorities on the topic, from a medical perspective from Dr. Pang, and from a soil science and crop perspective from Dr. Pang. We raised the questions when we spoke to him on Friday night about these chemicals and these genetic organisms getting into the environment, into the air and into the water. And it seems to me, if I understood him correctly, that there's a strong likelihood that these are. Years ago, when the pineapple company was using DBCP, we objected to their continued use, and upon investigation found out that the DBCP was getting into the water supply, into the aquifers, even though they said it would bind with the soil. Is that the case with these organisms and these chemicals? Do they bind with the soil, or are they blowing in the air and getting into the water?
They're all very strong chelators, but also glyphosate, for instance, Roundup, extremely water soluble. So that we're finding it in the water, we find it in the air, and certainly EPA has had to continually increase the amount that's tolerated in our food, so that we have levels now that are over 4,000 times higher permitted in our food than all of the laboratory studies show are extremely toxic to liver cells, to cancer cells, or not to cancer cells, but liver cells, kidney cells, and also as cancer promoters.
You should come tonight because you can ask your questions. We've repeatedly 3 times on Akaku been turned down from a debate by Monsanto. So if they're not going to show up and just talk to the public without us there, you bring their questions or what they say to us. What they say is, this is natural, or these effects are unknown, but they're not all bad. Lots of fluff when you really think about it. Their arguments are kind of strange. And if there were medical people, I'd sue them.
Mark, Don, and Dr. Pang, I am
If people are
very
not able to
impressed.
get there tonight, because it's already rather late, you
Well, we
can
have an hour and a half to get there.
you can go to shakamovement.org, and the highlights will be shown. You will be instructed as to how to obtain a petition and sign the petition so that we can put this on the ballot. And then let's see if the people of Maui County really are concerned about this issue and up to the point where they want to pass this bill and protect themselves.
All right, so we have an hour and a half for people to get down there. That's the Mac and McCoy Theater. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Louise Lambert. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
All right,
It was a
Dennis.
pleasure having you. Thank you so much. And we're going to take a quick break and get over to Maui. So
Thank you,
guys
Dana.
can go do your thing.
Did you know? These 6 major corporations control 90% of the media. Hey everyone! Want to get your message out there, but don't know how? Akaku can help. We have several services that are easily accessible. A hot set, or open mic, is the easiest and least expensive way to get your message out there. Anyone can do it. Just call us at 871-5554, set up an appointment, and then show up at the designated time. It's that simple. After completing our intro classes, you can become certified to utilize our Michael Clark studio for any kind of show you want to make. And once you've finished the class or field camera certification, you'll be able to borrow our nifty cameras and audio equipment and go shoot projects outside of our studio. We can shoot in high definition, which ensures that your masterpiece will look great once it's edited. Akaku regularly records and cablecasts select meetings of the Maui County Council on Channel 53. Give us a call at 871-5554 or visit us at 333 Dairy Road in Kahului.
5 and 6?
Woo, welcome to live television, and we're back with Louise Lambert and Jason Schwartz. Yeah, we're setting up. This is live television, guys, so this is no script, but we definitely do the best we can here.
Hi.
Hi.
Are we on? I guess we are.
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay. This Saturday night, Louise Lambert is doing a sing-along of the Beatles. Can you imagine 50 years since the Beatles came on Ed Sullivan's show? And so Saturday Night at Mulligan's is going to be all kinds of musicians doing all kinds of Beatles songs. And so if you know the words, come on down. If you don't know the words, they'll
be up on the screens.
I don't know the words, but I'll be dancing.
So we only have a few minutes, so why don't you just start on it, Louise, because we're short on time. We're going to have to bring it back.
Akaku Live, folks.
What would you think if I sang out of tune?
Or would you stand up and walk out on me?
Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song.
I will try not to sing out of key.
I get by with a little help from my friends. I get high with a little help from my friends. Gonna try with a little help from my friends. What do I do when my love is away?
Well, does it worry you to be all alone?
And how do I feel by the end of the day?
Are you sad that you're on your own?
No.
I get by with a little help from my friends.
I get high with a little help from my friends. Gonna try with a little help from my friends. Ooh, do you need anybody?
I need someone to love.
Could it be anybody?
All I
from my friends. I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. Ooh, I get by with a little help from my friends.